actually enforces the secrets of the night sky. Picture yourself sitting alone in your living room, late at night. Hours earlier, you saw something impossible hovering just above the treeline. You know you saw it. You even took a photo. Suddenly, there is a slow, methodical knock at your front door. You look through the peephole. Standing on your porch are two pale men in perfectly pressed, oddly out-of-date black suits. They do not look like FBI agents. They look like imitations of human beings. They ask to come inside, and you feel an overwhelming, inexplicable terror. So maybe the better question is, what happens after you witness the impossible? You are face to face with the men in black, the ultimate enforcers of the extraterrestrial cover-up. We all know the blockbuster movies, the slick agents erasing memories with flashy gadgets. You would think these figures were just Hollywood inventions, but that's not how it's usually depicted in the raw, terrifying historical accounts. There is a deeply disturbing reality buried beneath the pop culture gloss, which is why today we're going to take a look at the true origins of the men in black. To understand the terror of the silencers, we have to travel back to the dawn of Cold War paranoia. The year is 1947. Flying saucers have just crashed into the public consciousness. People are looking at the sky with equal parts wonder and absolute dread. Government conspiracy rumors are spreading like wildfire. Enter Albert K. Bender, a quiet, obsessive man living in Connecticut. In 1952, Bender founded the International Flying Saucer Bureau. His goal was simple: collect data, connect witnesses, and uncover the truth behind the massive wave of UFO folklore. He was wildly successful. His organization grew rapidly across the globe. But that success attracted the absolute worst kind of attention. Bender began hinting to his members that he had actually solved the UFO mystery once and for all. He claimed he possessed the ultimate secret of the alien presence on Earth. He wrote a special feature for his magazine intending to blow the lid off the entire paranormal phenomenon. Therefore, the world was waiting for his massive revelation. But turns out, not so much. Instead of publishing the truth, Bender abruptly shut down his entire organization. He halted the magazine. He told his loyal followers he could no longer continue his research under any circumstances. Why would a man on the verge of making history suddenly walk away? Because he was visited. Bender confessed that 3 men in dark suits materialized in his home. They did not show government badges. They did not threaten him with a standard arrest. Instead, they communicated with him telepathically. They confirmed his theories were entirely correct, but they warned him of catastrophic consequences if he dared to share them with the public. They terrified him to his absolute core. Therefore, the modern legend of the men in black was officially born. These were not standard federal agents. They smelled of burning sulfur. Their eyes mysteriously glowed from the shadows of their fedoras. They moved with a stiff, robotic awkwardness that heavily suggested they were not entirely human. You might assume Bender's bizarre story would fade into obscurity, but the exact opposite happened. His close friend, Gray Barker, wrote a massive book in 1956 detailing the encounter. Barker took Bender's terrifying experience and broadcasted it to a deeply anxious American public. Suddenly, the men in black were everywhere. Reports started flooding in from across the globe. Witnesses who claimed to see UFOs were being ruthlessly intimidated into silence. But here is where the narrative sharply shifts. The government definitely had an interest in UFOs at the time. The Air Force was actively running Project Blue Book. You would fully expect these intimidating visitors to act like standard military intelligence, asking rigid questions, taking detailed notes, and confiscating camera film. But the craziest thing is, the historical reports describe something fundamentally absurd. Witnesses reported men in black showing up in pristine, untouched vintage cars, usually massive black Cadillacs, that smelled like they had literally just rolled off a 1940s assembly line decades after they were originally built. The men themselves were completely bizarre. They wore bright red lipstick to hide chalky, translucent white skin. They had absolutely no idea how basic human objects worked. In one famous account investigated by researcher John Keel during the Point Pleasant Mothman sightings, a man in black actually tried to drink a solid glass of Jell-O. John Keel discovered that these entities would often pose as mundane census takers or insurance salesmen, but their behavior gave them away entirely. They carried fake credentials loaded with bizarre spelling errors. They asked nonsensical questions that had absolutely nothing to do with UFO sightings, like demanding to know what time it was over and over again. They spoke in monotonous, computerized voices, almost as if they were wearing a human skin suit and furiously struggling to operate the internal controls. They triggered a profound sense of the Uncanny Valley, a primal psychological revulsion that happens when we see something that looks almost exactly human, but is fundamentally wrong. Why would a highly classified government agency employ such absolute freaks? Let's find out why. The disturbing truth is, these strange encounters do not align with any known federal operations. Therefore, paranormal researchers began forming a terrifying new hypothesis. The men in black were not covering up the alien presence. They were the alien presence. Or perhaps they were interdimensional entities acting as a bizarre immune system for the universe, violently stepping in to suppress human knowledge whenever we get way too close to the forbidden truth. This brings us to the ultimate question. What are the men in black? We started by looking at them as physical enforcers, shadowy government agents knocking on doors to steal evidence. But as we have clearly seen, the rabbit hole goes much deeper than standard espionage. Skeptics offer a completely different, yet equally fascinating explanation. They argue the men in black are purely a psychological projection. Think about the historical era. The 1950s and 60s were heavily defined by the crushing weight of Cold War paranoia. Everyday citizens were terrified of Russian spies, secret government testing, and the constant looming threat of global nuclear annihilation. Therefore, the men in black act as a modern myth, a literal manifestation of our deep-seated anxiety about unseen authorities watching us, controlling us, and hiding the ultimate truth. They are the ultimate boogeymen for a society that realizes it has absolutely zero control over the massive, secretive forces governing the entire world. So, you started this journey viewing the men in black as either a fun Hollywood comedy or a literal government hit squad. But the ultimate paradigm shift is realizing they are something far more complex. They represent the terrifying intersection between unexplainable high strangeness and fragile human psychology. They are the unsettling guardians of the unknown. Yet, before you dismiss them entirely as a figment of our collective cultural imagination, remember Albert K. Bender, a sane, rational man who gave up his entire life's passion because of a single terrifying knock on his door. Remember the countless independent witnesses, separated by decades and massive geography, describing the exact same stiff gait, the exact same glowing eyes, and the exact same rotting smell of burning sulfur. There is a profound difference between reading about an urban legend and looking through your peephole to see it staring completely blankly right back at you. If you ever look up at the night sky and see something completely defy the laws of physics, you might want to keep it to yourself, because someone or something might be listening, and they do not like to be noticed.